So the next practice we're going to do is from the yogic tradition. It's called Nadi Shodhana. Nadi means channel, and it's a line of flow through the system. Now, all of the traditional Asian flow medicines, and I call them flow medicines because the principle behind those practices is to keep a being in good flow so that it stays well. It's preventative healthcare. So when we're working with diet and breath and movement in an intelligent way, we're aiming to stay well. If we stay well, we don't need to fix the broken bits. We stay in balance, we don't fall out of balance. Remember, I talked about out of balance being disease and illness. Coming back to balance is healing. If we stay in balance, if we stay in flow, we don't need to fix anything. So the essential element of this kind of approach to practice is staying in flow. Now, the nadis, or the meridians as they call them in Chinese medicine, the anatomy trains, as they call them in fascial understandings from the Western world, although Western medical systems are also adopting medical acupuncture, even if they don't know why it works, because it works. So these lines of flow through the system may well be fascial web, where there's hyaluronic acid or various ions flowing through the gel sol, that's liquid kind of jelly matrix of the fascia. And when that stuff flows well, we stay well. Now, breath-based practices are a very profound way of keeping good well-being. Movement practices in conjunction with that. So you can find some movement practices on my website. The nagas are on there. For example, and they're free, you can just access those, and that's a great practice for keeping good body flow and staying well. So this practice is called Nadi Shodhana. Nadi, the two main lines it's talking about are called Ida and Pingala, which means the sun and the moon, literally. It's actually the pale and the reddish in direct translation, but it's referring to the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon are our polar experiences of yang and yin. The opposition, the opposite polarities of experience. So the intention of Nadi Shodhana, purification, Shodhana means purification, is to clarify those experiences of polarity. And ultimately within those yogic systems, the intention was to clarify and then reduce those energies so that we can inhabit the centering, center line of our experience, Sushumna, the center nadi. That's a little bit about yogic physiology and yogic psychology there, right? Now, the center line in Vedic yogic world is called Sushumna, which means she who is most graceful. It's beyond space and time. It's not a geographical location in the body, although we experience it as that to begin with. So the practice of coming into that deep central line awareness are part of the practice of the central line. Tunmo, those of you who heard of Tunmo, which is the Tibetan practice of inner fire, that is actually a central line practice in its deeper sense. It's about going into the central line and being able to land in there so successfully that you can change your own physiology. In Tibetan, the central line is called avaduti, which means beyond the two, beyond the polarities of the sun and the moon. Okay, so it's very related practices. So this practice is of balancing the sun and the moon, the polarities of our experience. Interestingly, in the Western research around this practice, and there isn't very much, when we breathe like this through alternate nostril, and it's also called alternate nostril breathing, it changes blood flow to the opposite prefrontal cortex. So we're irrigating the prefrontal cortices with blood flow by breathing like this. There's a lot of yogic instruction and teaching and experience, clinical experience, around changing the blood flow from one side to the other side through the nostrils and how that affects our well-being and our capacity to do different activities. That's called Swara Yoga, but we'll cover that at another time. So right now we're going to introduce the basics of this practice. Got a little bit of theory behind it, and we're going to come into the basics now. So first of all, if you rest one hand like this, you can tuck the finger tip into the thumb and rest that palm on the lap. The other hand is going to be used for navigating around the nostrils. So if you open the armpit up, bring the elbow long through the central line, otherwise the tendency is to drop over to the side if we don't reach far enough over. So come over, bring that forearm into the central line. These two fingers here, the index finger and the middle finger, can rest on the forehead. Some people don't like that, and they can curl in and use the thumb and finger, which I'll show in a second. But let's try this first of all, like this. And then this thumb can cover one nostril, the right nostril, since I'm using my right hand. And the ring finger can cover the left nostril. So those two fingers give me access to closing or opening the nostrils like this. I can do that underneath the nostril or on the flesh of the nostril. Either way, both work slightly differently. I vary my approach, and sometimes it's nice to be firm in the contact and sometimes really gentle. But you'll explore this over the next 20 years of your practice, 25 years even. Okay? You've got plenty of time. So fingers in the middle of the brow, thumb on one nostril, ring finger on the other, central awareness, sitting tall, head above the heart, heart above the belly, belly above the pelvis. And from there, we're going to breathe out first of all through the left side. And then breathe in through the left side. Hold the breath, close both nostrils, hold the breath in the body, very briefly, open the right side, breathe out through the right side. Hold the breath out in the body for a quarter of a second, then breathe in through that right side, the second side. Close the nostrils for a couple of seconds, breathe out through the left side. And that's one round. So breathing in the first side, very brief micro hold, breathe out through the second side. Super brief micro hold, breathe in through the second side. Super hot, brief hold, and then breathe out through the first side. That's the practice of Nadi Shodhana. Okay. Now, a little bit more about this. In the body-based psychology that yoga is, the mind and the body are intrinsically unified. There is no separation between mind and body. So that means that when we create objects out of space-time, what our brain does is filter out information to create solid lumps out of flow. Everything's vibrational flow. But we create solid lumps with our mind, and then we relate emotionally to those solid lumps with either attachment, wanting, gripping, withdrawal, or indifference. And those three basic emotional tones, they're not emotions, they're tones that inform emotions. The emotional tones of gripping, craving, wanting, desiring, withdrawal, pulling away, fear, and indifference. Those three basic emotional tones come out of the belly, they come out of the nervous system, the belly-based nervous system, and they inform all the emotions and the attitudes of mind. Do we go for that thing? Do we pull away from it? Do I bother? Right? So all the other more complex mammalian emotions come out of that. So this balancing breath is taking these functions of mind as body and beginning to clarify, simplify, and bring those into a gentle state of cessation so we can fully inhabit the central line, which is the place of deep center. So let's cover that terrain again. Now, interestingly, with this one, what really matters is your relationship to the breath. I want you not to count the breath, and some schools teach counting on this. I want you to feel the breath. I want you to feel how effortless you can keep the breath. So there's an effortless quality on the inhale. A very brief, effortless hold. An effortless quality on the exhale. The exhale comes to completion. No panic, no rush, no pressure, no friction. Super brief hold. In-breath. Feel that in-breath. It should feel gentle and effortless all the way as you breathe in. Brief hold. A very long, slow out-breath. Effortless again. So if you've rushed or pushed the breath, so for example, if the out-breath feels tight, like it's a panicky feeling, that means the brief hold or the in-breath previous to that was too long. So you're really listening to the body, really listening to the breath, listening to whether that panic is coming up or not. So you're training yourself in deeply understanding your respiratory psychology. So let's cover that again. Breathe out first. Breathe in through the left side. Take that breath in up through that left side. Effortless, easy, graceful, soft, fluid. Brief micro hold. Yeah. Breathe out through the right side. Breathing out, breathing out, breathing out effortlessly. Super brief hold. Inhale almost straight away. Breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. Brief hold. Breathing out, breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. That's another round. So I want you to do between 6 and 9 rounds of this. 6 and 9 rounds. And then finish with 3 rounds of relaxing the hands down in Dhyan Mudra, breathing through both nostrils. So that's the practice. 6 to 9 rounds in the morning. You can do 6 to 9 rounds of this. You can do some at lunchtime, 6 to 9 rounds. You can do some before you go to bed, 6 to 9 rounds. Okay? And get this practice woven into your life, woven into your system. It's a really good practice to cultivate. Now, interestingly, again, in the Tibetan systems, some of them work so that the men and women work on different sides. Now, I've started everybody on the left side there. But if you're a woman, maybe it would feel right to breathe in through the right side first. Find out. Try for yourself and see what feels most at home for your body. Okay? I want you to tune into what's real for you. I want you to feel the breath. Feeling is much more important than imposing a mentally constricting, body constricting count on top of the breath to try and force the body into a particular shape. Feel it. That's my recommendation.